So I'm doing a old scenario here. Well, I've just been accumulating for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Welcome to the Emotional Abuse Simulator 6. One where the player encounters multiple iterations of emotional abuse in various areas of their day-to-day life. Personal, intimate, friendship, colleague, employer, family, organization, institution, historical. Once the simulation is completed, please submit your request for certificate at the end of the session. Each session is good for 4 continuing education hours. And
There's a reason
please
why we're doing this.
memorize the safe gesture that will be your personalized cue to end the program. Excellent. Let's begin stepping through the doorway. Button mash your emotional abuse seed number to begin. 3,985,390,456 to give it some flavor. I bet you got a bunch of chicks under the porch of this bar you're about to leave. I bet they ain't giving up for nobody, huh? Ouch, ouch! Greetings, I'm Dr. Van der Rietzpunt, Professor, Doctoral Program Chair. How are you today, Mr. Miss Friend who knows me well, who's in charge of my care, who knows about the seed number S? OS, you're a fine fellow / sissy, yes? I have so enjoyed this very positive simulation today. So nice of you to send in those references and self-assessments. Please do write me an email about how I'm a lovely person. You seem so sincere about your assessment. Thanks a bunch. And good luck. Green flashes off. Then re-engages with the screen locked. A note that the character does not refer to in the essay. Fuck off, asshole! As a simulation for graduate school, Emotional Abuse Simulator was well received among its audience. The book it inspired sold a few 100,000 copies. There have been several spin-off publications that use the same seed numbers. Author's note. A note that the author does not refer to any plus. Emotional Abuse Simulator 5. How's it going today, Johnny? Got the old mother in tow yet? She been giving you any trouble? The supervisor, Mr. Clark, asks this at Johnny, age 28, and his co-worker / friend, Harry, age 30. Johnny says it's okay and smiles. Harry snorts, and Johnny tilts his head slightly in agreement. So I'll call her ma'am. Oh, well, that makes things all fine and dandy. You all good? Harry sneers and turns his eyes towards Mr. Clark. Be gentle. Macy adds softly. Her eyes flick briefly to Johnny, with yourself and with him. Author's note. A note that the author did not refer to in the say, and which many people disagree about. Johnny gives a grim laugh. Who I am is never going to be something to do with words or actions. And there's plenty of proof that any action we take is flawed. Harry bristles at this and glares, shaking his head, lips pursed tightly, fists tight and squeezing into a ball. He nods. Yeah, I know it's all fucked up. The words come from deep inside Johnny. His voice is a little cracked, low. He doesn't move because he doesn't want to see what Harry does when the words spill out. How they can break someone or destroy them. Harry will surely see this as his fault. But Mr. Clark stares ahead as if nothing happens and there are no responses or anything except for the noise of the office, the soft swish of air, and the blip of traffic as people speed past outside on the sidewalk. The sun is blinding outside. It feels like summertime again. And outside there are thousands of cars parked and passing. On the other side of Johnny, Macy, an employee of the same company, has her face in her phone and the computer screen showing Mr. Clark's text file. The situation, I realize now, is a much broader problem of the mind. When people reach for certainty, to know things, or to become true, or to believe in something, or to defend their own statements, or whatever else people do, we are falling short on humanity and intelligence. Check inventory. Needs socks. Scother's note. I don't actually have this. Also, not required for the simulation to play itself properly. When Johnny comes from his room the next morning, he and Harry are woken up by Mrs. Jones screaming at her boyfriend in the adjacent hallway. He's had another beer too many. Mrs. Jones scurries from her room down the hall as she blabbers away to no one in particular. Come on, John. You got this time for me. Search for some necessary socks. Need any socks? Here are the results of your search. One item found. Search results. Breath. 4 matches. It 1 match. Heart 4 matches. And flawless 4 matches. A box is held out from the waist of Mr. Clark. A small rectangle with little markings and no frilly description in an opaque field that needs no explanation to a reader. Want a box? Take the box. Or do the above steps again, kid. Take Bach. The next couple of days, Johnny spends watching videotapes, having long talks with Mr. Clark, working more hours, listening, sorting his emotions out. But he eventually loses the patience, and it starts to become an argument between Johnny and Harry when Johnny insists Harry spends more time writing, more than just checking emails from work, more than the very busy task of watching videos at his desk, and so on and so forth. Afterward, everything gets better. They continue writing the script with ease, taking off a few weeks where the subject matter was discussed in a serious way, but without great fanfare. The only change comes with some mild abuse from Mr. Clark's parents over dinner. Harry calmly stares over dessert as they converse in hushed tones that are never given enough weight to mean anything. He is polite about the words hurled against him like poisonous sludge. All the while, Harry wonders if Johnny and himself deserve a bitter response from Mr. and Mrs. Jones for all that has been said to them. Now in a pot, quietly, Mr. Jones's mom tells his son how much he regrets meeting his father. That, according to the TV. The mother really deserved a much more freeing life with contraception. This sponge. Ideally, for her sake, Mrs. Jones changes the topic back to family size, and so do the children. Johnny doesn't know what to say, but Mrs. Jones doesn't pause her berating. It was too late to avoid the subject of the abortion of their second child. Her daughter comes first. says Mrs. Jones through a momentary shudder before Harry nods for the group to enjoy lunch together in this setting by the water. Harry remains expressionless the whole time, content to let a few seconds run out after his words. Mrs. Jones, with the amount of kids we actually have, you'd think we were mixed. Johnny, like from that band, Mom? It makes for quite an awkward dinner after that. And once the last remains are left behind in the family, there's still no clear feeling for either of Harry's children about what Mr. Jones actually thinks about what their mom is saying. Nothing ever happened beyond her disappointment and disgust. When they go into the kitchen, Harry sighs heavily. Mr. Jones! Mom, this isn't what I told your therapist. Meanie Jones, you do understand what a rape victim looks like. You may not agree with their opinion, but that's why this conversation doesn't make it over to you. The real me and the version of me that talks with that stupid therapist are both inside my head. She just pretends that she understands because she can't believe a daughter like yours could do something like what that reporter in that video said about abortion, or about being a fucking tool for her dad when he is good for nothing at all. In bed. Mrs. Jones. He doesn't get laid, as they say these days, because women know his value system from their fathers and realize most young girls would rather fuck up with their parents than settle with their husbands. As he made perfectly clear last week while sitting out with some girl in his office building where he got himself caught by some female coworker. Then all three of us laughed in ways no other member of our families has for decades. Harry, nice. Thanks, Mama. Mrs. Jones. A moment's madness is to be expected on the fourth most sacred day of the week, right after Friday when we let off steam as a nation over the past week, don't we? Can I retroactively call for TMI? Mrs. Jones. Sure thing. After all, this is your goddamn autobiography anyway, isn't it? I decided to interview the woman behind the scenes, while being an exhibitionist because who knew sex work would become this fun. Is totally okay for me. There's still the stigma in a society that pretends to love tolerance and women, and so I set out on my little adventure. The big one that every single lady in our fair society must face. Unfortunately or fortunately, a quick note to begin. It's not just cis people who have issues with female sex workers. What's the fourth most sacred day of the week? The prostitute. Nobody asks questions. We're in America. The prostitute. Fuck off. It's your job to do this. Go have someone else do it and go get your day's paycheck. Don't waste my fucking time. If you'd like a half hour of coffee and a puff and then an easy blow, knock yourself out. You're talking a lot about pay. Is that one of the top problems you see clients and escorts run into?
Sorry,
You.
coughing.
You know, we call folks sex workers. Do you not identify with that term? The prostitute. Oh yeah, because sex work isn't really work. Yeah. You know, when I think of that, all this really resonates. Have you ever been able to find the kind of professional where people listen to your expertise and respect your value, and training without shaming you or giving you shit for who you are? The prostitute. Yeah, Some. It just makes me wary of them. The problem is most people don't look at the sex workers as professionals because the way they were born and raised teaches us that our skills should only be utilized when a man's cock has entered our hands and our throats, or what our bodies will do, whether we've consented to that or not. You, that's part of the conversation I want to have here. This notion of consent or in being responsible for your actions, even if no one else seems to take it that seriously. And that can impact a person's experience of sex work overall, right? The prostitute. I'll be blunt. It happens here often enough, so much that I wish people would see how destructive that dynamic can be, which is why it ends up as a profession for those of us who really have nothing better to go back home to. There's been men, mostly younger but with the oldest in the older generation, who'll try to imply they'll do more than what's written on our paper contracts. As soon as I object to his aggressive behavior, he'd pick me up by my hair and force me to clean or some bullshit like that. You, like your whole body and physical space wasn't an option in that moment. You, what would you do if you could transfer your work hours into something that translated into a medical or social work degree? Or what if you took a degree that let you work in support for sex workers or those who struggle with mental health issues or violence from outside? The prostitute. Would I ever taps the arm of the wheelchair? Would I even be able to make it without using one? Hell no. So that's not even a fucking consideration. You said something that gave me pause earlier, that these Sims aren't therapy. So why would they help people like you? Prostitute. Well, you're my audience, so you probably know how the brain functions at times. The patterns where it goes to autopilot in these kinds of games where you just force yourself to think, and keep on thinking about something so deeply that everything else around you slows down. Sometimes your thoughts are even slower than that. This type of stuff is your first steps away from that brain rut you're stuck in, making it harder to let go and feel those things in other ways again, since they come into conflict. You pause and look at the profile of the prostitute. You change the field to the name sex worker. You are curious to see how different the personality profile might shift. You unpause the scenario and begin asking the questions you asked from the beginning. Sex worker. Uh-huh. You. You. Would you mind showing me the bit here? You direct your attention to where you think the hands are touching the back. and then further notice your avatar's face, staring out blankly. It looked like you were shying away from it for a moment. Did anything happen while we were looking? Sex worker. Nothing I can remember. I must have been shivering for an awful while after that part ended. The sex worker in the avatar blinks twice. Oh wow, that is a shock. How many years has it been since he went in front of his gravestone? Sex worker. Well, I don't know. How's life treating ya? Another blank. You. Life and the scenario are about what my sister's going through right now, as you'd know if you worked with her, and we're all trapped together trying to deal with a dead guy who feels very much alive. The scenario could be my work, since I'm teaching emotional abuse counseling while doing it. You'd certainly notice this much when someone you know is not responding the way they used to. I have to make up new examples because all of this happened before. We get some basic ideas from existing roleplay, but are constantly making up new material too. I don't always use the sex worker as the avatar for you or the person you need to talk about. I sometimes use myself. Maybe more often than not. New examples. Tired. Have you thought of confronting your partner to tell him to stop abusing you? Wired. Why don't you confront him? All the more reason why you should let yourself out of the relationship.
That's not.
It's abuse.
That's not.
Solutions
That's not the
to easily
wired one.
avoiding those damn words. How would you deal with any random guy in the street yelling obscenities at you on the bus/tube/street without knowing what to do next and trying desperately not to cry? Good way to avoid a huge train of abuse. Simply tell everyone who opens their fucking mouth to think again instead of react automatically with whatever words or phrases come to their heads because it. Feel safe. Tell them calmly to let the matter go until they have had time to consider how triggering and stupid they sound. Tell them that if they like making up violent stories in their minds so much, then go write a damn book and act out scenes for your friends. Not for the poor fucks on the fucking train you're repeatedly fucking humiliating. This one gets people really mad, so I'll give the third and fourth suggestions instead. Tell people why you can't deal with violence in this context. For men, I am someone who might kill. You're like anyone else. There are male victims of domestic abuse, rape, and sexual abuse. I am not defending them by saying all rapists look like Brock Turner. And the second, much milder option is to just laugh. For real. Laugh like a dick. There's an important distinction between laughing so people stop abusing you and just making light of abuse. In the end, both methods just turn this abusive tactic into a joke. A joke on us or you. Who cares? All that matters is getting to the end. As I said to people on Steam, there is no nice way to tell this story. Here are some ways we can let abusive shit people say to us get back at them and save ourselves from feeling worthless. They still don't mean anything to the people saying them, but they sure as hell do mean a lot to the abused. Option 1 is humor your response in -9. Option 2 is just killing it. Kill it with kindness and beauty. Your abuser is the problem. And if the world gave them shit for their behavior, things would improve dramatically. Remember, you are not alone. Nothing is your fault. Nothing. Let's get rid of all toxic environments. Make shit toxic for yourself. I did this by allowing my abusive past and experiences to breed pure fucking hatred inside of me. Now it's too hot to handle. You could literally see this fire raging within me. That makes perfect sense. If we allow abusers to run wild without any accountability, who else has to be hurt? This applies beyond abusive relationships. Bullies make school, work, family, politics, sports, anything a misery. If we want peace, everyone has to put up with some uncomfortable conditions here and there. Take the shit elsewhere or you'll end up like them. My old game development teacher and advisor, Peter Molyneux, said it best. If we have more games about hard things happening in games, then you will have a better understanding of reality, which makes our lives more fulfilling. As a community, we must make games about death and violence and rape and emotional abuse. If we start making art that hurts us, like making something of yourself through pain as a way to improve our lot, then we might be able to make the world a more loving place without everyone having to throw in the towel on themselves. In the end, we win, but it means we get to live harder, much longer, and at some point even enjoy all the shit they shove down our throats. We do have a choice about what we feel bad from or upset about. I'm not the type to choose victimhood when there's always another option. Emotional abuse, and pretty much any abuse, starts by either subtly criticizing your appearance, then devaluing your sense of self, which quickly spirals into actual self-doubt because you don't trust yourself anymore. Like all types of abuse, they've worked on their emotions in order to get the upper hand. Then, by shaming the other party, they build themselves up while trashing a new victim. They get to. Five elevator pitches for video games about emotional abuse. 1. Overthinking it. Gameplay follows players' paranoid thoughts about any and all forms of harassment. What if they're secretly watching you through the walls, behind your closet, in the dark corners of a room? Or are they out to steal your soul? A non-specific female avatar is wearing pajamas that occasionally whisper messages like, "Hurry up, I have other appointments to keep." And you always wake up with your feet dangling from the ceiling and think, "What did I do last night?" Or maybe you thought you were playing in a 4D space. 2. Those who spend so much time and energy to do something like that. Emotional abuse simulation. For numerous quick-time events of subtlety abused by the protagonist. Every action in this game will either be explicitly considered emotionally abusive by another party or not, based on the player's choice to override certain options. For instance, in the case where your close friend with whom you have been for years loses their house after getting laid off due to the economic recession and asking you to please stop writing emails asking if he's alive or being sent to Siberia because he gets embarrassed talking about his hardships. 3. Dog whistle time. Emotional abuse simulation. As it goes without saying, certain assumptions and representations made about the different races, genders, and classes of our society by mainstream entertainment media. How exactly to move those women's and slash or minorities from one emotional state to another, which are too complex to cover here. Let me simply say that while the content may be simplistic for the sake of easier comprehension and gameplay, that same lack of depth can easily turn the emotional simulation into a dog whistle and fuel racial microaggressions. For instance, depending on which type of black character players choose, it may subtly give the player permission to harass and humiliate the protagonist without feeling the least bit guilty for the trauma they experienced. Of course, the gamer can make any sort of judgment on who is the good, racist, or bad, and the story can explore those consequences. 4. Making a social point, the emotional abuse simulator. In an effort to explore the mechanisms of abuse and manipulation that underlie most modern socio-economic systems, while staying true to my original premise of creating a workable emotional simulation. 5. Rediscovering our connection, the emotional abuse simulator. Through direct and indirect exploration of real psychological evidence. A research paper titled Chronic Disorganization is Not a Symptom of Psychological Disorders that was published in the British Journal of Psychology. You can find the free copy here, BJP. There is no single cause for disorganization, and there may not even be one trigger. If you were to try to diagnose the disorder based only on behavior and treat it by your usual methods of disorganization, it would not get better. Honorable mention. This is not about that. A lightning quick side scroller about compartmentalization. A microcosmic emotional abuse simulator built for an 80% discount. It's about playing the game you've always wanted. If only it didn't mean losing everything else you love to the whims of this abuse, but knowing in a way you never do with any other video game that the stakes are non-negotiable. That having and making friends is your greatest joy, while everything else just brings pain. And being happy is like using drugs or getting drunk. A last resort, just barely possible if you've worn yourself out enough trying to fake a positive self-image without anyone ever finding out. If you win, you're simply given the ability to enjoy that one thing for exactly 20 minutes before the screen goes. No one is going to congratulate you on how far you've come. You can win only after a certain amount of failure, loss of sight, and rejection from others before you'll finally feel in control over any facet of your life. Congratulations to the developers of that game who'd been keeping the flame burning even while their fingers were submerged in blood up to their wrists. Develop an equivalent to Redstone that can be used for the Emotional Abuse Simulator project. I am inspired by a family game of ours called Redstone, called Stone, because we've never had any redstone and only call it that, and I'd like to figure out ways to model that and then use redstone to simulate real-world issues, particularly interpersonal trauma, through building new rules, expanding existing ones, and modifying ones that already exist. For example, every player has a bucket of energy, meaning they have a limited number of times that they can run or jump around and hit things until exhausted before having to take a sick leave for at least a month to recover. After each action, the energy ticks down and slowly replenishes back to your current level. Although that amount depends on whether the action was successful, whether or not you injured someone. And at the beginning, you don't really have a system of recording victories against people like what you get in team-based sports such as soccer. And instead, energy is represented by the distance between where the players are. and the single center point of an objective, something like a person tied to a railroad track with a string being cut which has to be passed through before one can successfully run another lap / accomplish whatever they're running away from. The furthest point between the two center points on the opposite sides wins depending on whether there's anything to actually reach across the train tracks for, such as a train / pedestrian. So, as opposed to the team / individuals / side scoring goal wins in typical sports, the Redstone scoring objectives / targets are literal vehicles that have to be driven along that railway track to e.g. travel the entire length and enter an establishment of some kind on the other side of the map that serves as first place, and when players decide to do so, then they join forces in accomplishing the mission together. But I'm aware that sports aren't representative of this medium of simulationism. It's impossible for a team of human players to drive an actual train anywhere within their objective without assistance, and there's no rule to stop any other player on that map from intervening in achieving your objective. That said, they could use that lack of a team-based gameplay element to implement a conflict system to improve gameplay by doing stuff like attacking the train, disabling it, preventing players on that end of the map from running / driving them towards the destination, and so forth. But more of what we already do in society, i.e. different relationships are like redstone-powered objectives, some you want to reach across from start to finish for completion's sake, and others you're able to speed along, but things still go awry in the end due to fuck-ups or enemy interference, such that the only way to reach a final ending is through a random screw, getting attacked, running into someone when you had one lap remaining, falling off a cliff, hitting the button in your sleep that does nothing, etc. And if you happen to avoid the above eventualities, then something can always go wrong at the very last second. That's usually inevitable due to a player or a team not thinking in advance, e.g. running into an enemy / someone trying to intercept you with a shotgun blast just after you successfully jump over the railway road, usually referred to by other people as the yellow train, despite being neither red nor yellow to race ahead to, where your team / friends are waiting, or perhaps crashing in general, getting run over by a freight train on that same track on the ground, flying off a building, killing the person you need to convince if you don't have a high enough health or stamina bar to just plain murder your target or have their gun aim fall on its own, allowing your entire team to get killed or sucked into a portal / door before they respawn again. Why do you have to ride that track in the back from start to end to arrive somewhere within time limits? How about now? But like I said, if there's a high amount of cooperative effort between players, then everything can go swimmingly to allow them to reach the end destination, while my gameplay will almost always feature cutscenes because I'm too busy and lazy to spend effort actually making puzzles involving a one-room mansion with locked doors. So I let players spawn at locations randomly across the map. But if for whatever reason the amount of cooperation falls so, being harassed by an asshole who just started telling you to kill yourself without you doing any such thing, maybe taking one. Snort a line of redstone, okay. A second line of redstone, okay. A third, yeah, that'll do it. Just fine and good too. Say, take care of some actual matters, then you're bound to hit another fucking rail at precisely the worst moment and most likely not have enough health / ammo / whatever to outrun it when you just got back from taking on one of those sneaky bastards who do that sort of shit which results in death. respawning into a rail-damaged hellskip where it takes a long time before the gravity grid can even attempt to respawn the player to safety because everyone just wants to kill them because, you know, they were late anyway. Then you're right back again in the thick of all of the other issues that led you to becoming frustrated to begin with. Yes, this game will be entirely fucking unforgiving of every single thing you do, like the fucking people on /v/r. Here are some possible titles. The original has been left as a placeholder, because who knows why the fuck we changed it. Also, feel free to post other suggestions as well. Or even any alternative artwork. Just have the subject line reflect that they're in reference to your suggestions. Also, feel free to suggest stuff here too. Zipper 1, prototype title was, let me rape you one more time. A later draft said, if the abuse cycle begins over, do it again for the third time because fuck you, fuck yourself, fuck both of us. In addition to this, she suggests the following artwork. More soon. Thanks for reading. Save game, invoke after Karen. Oh look, there goes your Care Bear friend, going out to grab drinks and be buddy-buddy. After you leave the place and say goodbye, but still being watched because dude knows I'll talk shit about his friend when they aren't around. Fuck man, that's kind of nice. Kind of a boost. Something that just shows me what actually went into my recovery and hell yes. Oh shit that. Weirdest. Oddest friend. For some reason his voice feels wrong. Like someone just whispering into your ear, but you can never pinpoint where it's coming from. Kind of reminds me of the last guy. Oh crap, this was more of a dick measuring contest than anything else. Not saying I won in either case, only I know the facts, yeah. Okay, so really cool. What did I ever get from my friendship with you? Or love from my spouse? What? There's other text here. Yeah. Woohoo! Well, okay, so this is totally 100% what I've always been waiting to happen. Well, not necessarily the emotional violence section, but the stuff around it. Yes, this is total win. Showing what really happened in all its complex beauty. Fucking hell yes. And please make it possible to click no. Go ahead, I'm sure that made him really happy. Well done. Now the stories section has the 3 different pieces of advice from the counselor I've always wanted to have, also totally wonderful. The 3 advices. Thesis never put up with abuse. It takes the form of hate speech, name calling, humiliation, doubt tracing, victim blaming, and scapegoating. Realize that when the victim stays too long, their willpower weakens, enabling them to stay longer. When it gets bad, make a deal. Any abusive remarks and statements, if unkind or clearly done to wound you, will result in you leaving with no further explanation needed. A specific consequence helps everyone accept your word for what it is. People don't like not getting what they want. Antithesis, the abuser is merely upset and feels it's not enough or it isn't happening fast enough for them. No matter what anyone says or does, they can always find something wrong with the situation and make themselves believe that the end goal of abuse should be restarted so as to please them. The solution. Never stop making others happy. Simply enjoy your moments without needing to be near other people. The stronger those memories are, the less you'll care about hearing their stories about how great they're feeling about themselves right now. Synthesis, there's no way to stop this without forcing the abuser away entirely. You didn't take my first idea, but in order to truly understand abuse and your own inability to be more important than the one inflicting it, we can start there. You and the abused must learn that neither of you have a way to truly exist beyond each other, either through their approval or because they cause your unhappiness, but there is a chance of recovery. Only together can you ensure that the final result of your experience sounds so gross, eh? You have completed the level. You have gained the following experience points itemized, items, and skills. Gaining an additional 2x for completing your own prompt. To add insult to injury, -1 for saying no. Word is now pause mode on, so put up your dukes, okay? That is all for now, and for always, or why I will not leave until later is yet to be known. I've seen the video for the original. No, my fucking god, I want to get through this one because we know what's inside. Well, you do.
That's it for now.